and welcome to this episode of Geography Girl. Smart cities are almost the new frontier of city building. Whilst many of our cities are rife with much need for improvement, we tend to think of them as fully formed. Many of the world's biggest cities, such as London and Paris, are nowadays tight for space. Most of the land made available by the wars of the 20th century has been redeveloped and assigned an economic, socio-political or cultural purpose. But we're nowhere near done with city building. In the next 50 years, we'll simultaneously be upgrading technology and infrastructure and bringing back nature. These two seemingly opposing forces are in fact inextricably linked. For some, this is a necessary and progressive step towards building sustainable civilization. For others, these developments will erode the civil liberties we enjoy in our current free market by introducing stricter policies, requiring more and more data to be analysed and manipulated, and with centralised government becoming the architect and enforcer. A smart city is a technologically advanced urban area that uses information and technology to collect and analyse data from its citizens, devices and buildings to manage its assets and services more efficiently. This can be to manage transport, utilities, urban forests, hospitals, in managing crime and water supply systems. In smart cities, data is harvested and shared for businesses, citizens and governing bodies to analyse and create opportunities for innovation. By 2050, another 2.5 billion people are projected to flock to urban areas, with a close to 90% of this increase in Africa and Asia. Many of the established urbanisation norms are highly carbon intensive, so new models are evolving. In the coming centuries, we're bound to see a flourishing of smart cities, particularly in developing countries, which I would love to explore in another video. But today we're going to step into the streets of Paris to explore the towering heights of the 2050 Smart City Plan for Paris. Paris has the wealth of cultural heritage and architectural marvels, but it's looking towards an ambitious vision for the future, becoming a smart city by 2050. Paris's transformation aims to blend its cultural charm with cutting-edge technology and sustainable practices to optimise the quality of life for its residents whilst addressing climate change and a growing population. In 2014, Mayor Hidalgo launched Reinventing Paris, which was an international competition inviting proposals for urban development projects across 23 sites in the French capital. This was won by the highly acclaimed Vincent Calbo Architecture, who is an incredible visionary and highly acclaimed architect. The winner was a series of biophilic designs that are not only completely audacious in the way they look, but aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions of the city by 75% by 2050. The project is predominantly a research project into the integration of high-rise design with buildings that produce more renewable energy than they use. They propose a series of 8 biophilic designs with various desired outcomes, which we'll come to explore. Paris has always rebuilt itself, but still, preserving the footprint of 100 years of history is important. Therein lies an important issue. Will Paris step bravely towards an ambitious vision of the future, or lose itself to a lack of ambition and ongoing gentrification? We might one day find the answer in the mountain towers of the Rue de Rivoli. The Rue de Rivoli, or the Wall Street, stretches 3 kilometres east to west along the banks of the Seine River. It makes a grand statement with strict lines imprinted by the First Empire in the west and the 18th century of gentrification of housemen in the east. This eternal stretching street is as elegant as an eye, Victor Hugo said, created in the 18th century to resolve traffic jams and the hygiene problems of overcrowded old districts and controlling at the same time popular uprisings in the capital city. Described as a solar, hydrodynamic and planted towers of bio-air conditioning and clean wastewater from its residents. The Bioclimatic mountain towers will extend from roofs inspired by the shape of dragonfly wings, which will be lined with solar panels, which will create more than enough renewable energy for its community. Biophilic balconies will control city smog and clean wastewater from its residents. The second will be found at the Petite Ceinture of Paris, which is a 32-kilometre long railway line from the 1800s that went around Paris inside the Marchaux boulevards. This is now abandoned by Parisians who prefer to use the city's subway system. They will renaturalize the railway lines, creating community food gardens, cycle pathways, and cultivated housing. The towers will have a depolluting effect, designed in titanium dioxide, which will filter out atmospheric smog. As well as producing renewable energy, it will also create a bio-air conditioning effect by enabling cooler air to move passively inside the tower. The bamboo nest towers. Inspired by Le Corbusier's towering jungle built in the 1960s, the bamboo nest towers aims to renaturalize the 13 towers of the Messina area. The towers will be encased in a bamboo exoskeleton where inhabitants can grow their own organic produce. In the centre, you can see a wind turbine, which is placed in the funnel of the tower. Using zinc roofs, small mirrors will concentrate sun rays to heat fluid, which will convert into steam and power the turbine, creating a reliable and steady form of renewable energy. The honeycomb towers will provide small single-family dwellings in a hive structure. Made from steel, the individual mini houses will interlock and provide space for vegetable gardens and orchards. The honeycomb structure provides maximum spatial flexibility, optimal thermal and sound insulation, and is prefabricated for efficient construction. We're likely to see projects like the farm scrapers towers cropping up globally, but I doubt any will take a form so smooth and original looking as these. Described as an urban articulation of ecological corridors, this creates an urban forest in the shape of a manta ray. This aims to bring the countryside back into the city and will enable the local population to produce its own food. It will recycle water, bring oxygen to the city, and limit the use of chemical fertilizers, reintroducing local employment into the primary and secondary sectors, and reduce the ecological footprint, bringing food autonomy to the local population. Inspired by mangrove trees found in the marshes with their funatiforms and still roots, this urban mangrove will transform the use of Paris's railway network in a unique way. Built by iron and steel, each root will be planted into the platform of the Gare du Nord and will accommodate mixed-use offices, hotels and housing. It will of course be zero carbon, which I might add should include offsetting the incredible levels of embodied carbon in the production of iron and steel. It is thought to be depolluting thanks to the inclusion of titanium dioxide, which can remove harmful nitrogen from the air. The incredible thing is that the station platforms will be constructed with piezoelectrical captures that polarize when stood on by travellers, thus generating a form of energy. Whilst this is all incredibly exciting, these designs seem like more of a utopian works of fiction for the future, rather than a blueprint for the future of Paris. It kind of reminds me of Valinor from Lord of the Rings, where the elves live. It's kind of dreamy and fanatical, and if money didn't exist or existed in such excess, then I'm sure we would see this huey mirage in the future, but for now I think it's only going to be in our dreams. I'm sure we'll get some kind of knockoff version in actual reality. For now, Paris is aiming to become a 15-minute city, which is a model developed by a Sorbonne professor, Carlos Moreno, which was based on the works by Jane Jacobs, who basically thought that neighbourhoods were about building social networks rather than just having buildings. This is an idea of hyper-localism, which will bring cycle lanes, 50 kilometres of city nature, and the removal of 60,000 parking spots to create pedestrianised streets. The critiques of this experiment is that hyperlocalism could inhibit a cluster effect where specialists and their competitors work in close proximity to each other, sparking competition and innovation, which is often cited as the key to success for cities. But that's it for today. I hope you learned something new and were inspired, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.